ball and took another giant step closer to first on the fourth with a 7-4 win over Montreal. People are starting to pack in Wrigley Field. That makes for lots of good things to look at. Gary Wood's got the binoculars out, and boy, he likes what he sees. In the fourth inning, the game tied at 1. We saw Keith Moreland break the tie. A home run to left field, and the Cubs were leading 2-1. In a 3-run sixth inning, Mel Hall ignites it, driving in what turned out to be the game-winning run. A double down the left field line brings home Larry Boa. Chicago led 5-3. Watch this defense by Ron Say in the 7th inning. Tim Raines looked like a base hit. Bouncer in the infield. Say the diving catch saved it, made it an out. 7-4. The Cubs come away with a win over the Expos. Their 6th straight victory, sending the Expos to a 5th consecutive loss. The Cubs now 2 games out of first with a doubleheader to play on the 4th against the Expos.
The Windy City welcomed back the Cubs, who promptly clubbed the Mets in Chicago's home opener. The once lowly Cubs looked anything but as they got off to a surprising start. With over 33,000 on hand for the opener, Ron Say said sayonara to this pitch from Ed Lynch. Catcher Jody Davis said his farewell to Met base runners, and at the plate, Davis banged out a homer and drove in 2 runs. In the field, Mel Hall stood out with some dazzling defense. And on the attack, Gary Matthews made his Cub debut in Wrigley count big. The Sarge took charge, hitting a homer and driving in 2 runs. The beneficiary of the Bruin brawn was Cubs starter Steve Trout, who had the Mets fishing all day. But they came up way short. 9 runs, that is, as Chicago clobbered New York 11-2. The lefty went the full 9 for his 2nd complete game since 1982. The next day, the Cubs continued their winning form despite running into double trouble on the base pass. It went something like this. Mel Hall singled to left, driving in Bull Durham. But the Cubs tripped themselves up as Ron Say slipped rounding third, and Hall was caught in a rundown. Result? 1 run in, 2 Cubs out. But Chicago didn't despair, because this day the Cubbies had them all the way. Leon Durham made sure Chicago stayed bullish on offense. His homer helped the Cubs to a 5-2 win. And things are certainly looking sweeter at Wrigley these days.
Bull Durham, Bill Buckner situation's got to be a textbook example of that. We all saw the standing ovation that Buckner got before the Wrigley Field opener. And as a result, it looked like Bull Durham was pressing right from the outset. It had to be a pressure situation for him.
There's no question about it. I think Bull Durham actually was affected more by that move than Bill Buckner. Bill Buckner was asked 100 times or 1,000 times, as I was, about him being out of the lineup and Bull Durham going to first base. Bill Buckner is 34 years old and can handle that type of thing. I know he can. Leon Durham, I think, was affected by all the attention, and it seemed to affect his play for a day or two. But here recently, he's played very well. In the last 3 ball games, he's swinging the bat the way Bull Durham is capable of swinging it.
Well, that first game, he struck out 3 times in a row. Then he came back on Saturday, and he started to swing the big bat. And I'm sure everybody agreed it was not fair that Wrigley Field fans got on Bull Durham, and I think that he quickly won them over with his performance Saturday.
I told him after that game that they had that fan reaction. I talked to him after the game, and I told him that the fans aren't down on Bull Durham. The fans here love Bill Buckner, and all he had to do was get a few base hits, and those crews had turned to cheers.
As soon as he hit the home run, you were a prophet.
Those same people were cheering a couple innings the next day.
Well, it's pretty obvious they're going to be cheering for Bull Durham as long as he's a Cub. He's a quality baseball player, and Bill Buckner is too. And however this situation is resolved, it's just going to be a situation where it's nice to have 2 good ball players instead of nobody who can play that position.
Well, we've got backup in several positions. Bill Buckner's a fine player. I have to say that he's handled it about as well as anybody can handle that situation. Any ball player would be disappointed, but I think Bill Buckner is acting in the right way. Well,
you mentioned an interesting point, Jim. You talk to Moreland, Buckner, any of these players that figure they ought to be playing more. None of them criticizes you. And that's quite a nice testimony to your ability to handle the situation. They don't blame you for benching them. They say that at least you're upfront and honest about it, and I guess that's the keynote of your managerial tactic, is to be upfront, right?
Well, I try to explain the situation as best I can. I explained to them the day we acquired Matthews and Dernier what the thinking was behind the trade. And I've said this, the people have all heard me say that we wanted to improve our defense in the outfield. We wanted to improve our base running ability. This caused a problem. It's my job, of course, to juggle the ball players back and forth and get the best mileage out of them. So I said to all of them, I hope that I handle this situation so everybody can benefit.
Well, it's obvious that they've reacted very well to a trying situation. Now, somebody else who's reacted real well, your pitchers. Everybody criticized your pitching, and one guy in particular, Steve Trout, on the south side, then on the north side. Chicagoans always were saying, when is Steve Trout going to be the big winner that he should be? Well, it hasn't happened yet, and many have attributed that to Steve's mental approach to the game. But, Jim, the way Steve has looked in his first couple outings, very encouraging. 2 complete games in a row. First Cub pitcher to do that in 3 years.
Well, he started to show signs of that, of course, in Arizona. He had a very fine exhibition season. He pitched well every time out. And then we went to the West Coast. He had a little bit of a layoff, and he pitched in San Diego, and he struggled. He looked like he just wasn't himself. He came back here a couple of times this week and just pitched as strong a game as you can on 2 occasions.
Here he is opening day against the Mets. George Foster's got a man on. You're watching him strike out this tough right-handed hitter.
Right.
And, you know, he's been effective no matter the hitter's right-handed or left-handed.
Well, I think one of the things that you touched on, I think about his concentration or whatever there was a lack of in the past. I think there are 2 things that I've come to believe this year about this man. One is that Billy Connors has worked for over a year in trying to smooth out this boy's mechanics and give him some direction as a pitcher. And I think the boy himself has worked hard in trying to stay in the right frame of mind and keep his concentration throughout the game. I think he realizes that he had a weakness in that area. And between Billy and Steve, I think they've done a tremendous job.
When you look at his background, it's full of solid baseball pedigree, except we're talking about guys named Dizzy and Daffy in his background. So we got to work on this guy's concentration, and it's obviously paid off. Now, here against the Cardinals this week, another solid, complete game performance. And, Jim, he fielded well. Everybody criticized Steve's fielding before.
Well, he looks a little awkward. To say the least, he looks awkward. But, you know, a funny thing about this boy is really, he appears not to be a natural athlete. However, he made 3 good fielding plays against the Cardinals, and he also stepped up and hit a line shot into center field.
He's doing everything.
The game before, he hit a line drive to drive in 2 runs. He doesn't look pretty doing it, but he seems to be able to do it.
Well, he certainly does, and of course, he's so enthusiastic. Watch him after he gets the complete game victory. Just about misses the high five with Jody Davis, but he's going around handshaking for everybody, and that's sort of symptomatic of the kind of spirit now that's being generated.
Well, I know after the game today, he was like a kid with a new toy, and I felt good about him because it's been somewhat of a struggle in the past, and it's got to help his confidence.
Well, let's talk about confidence with another one of your pitchers. Obviously, Scott Sanderson came over from Montreal, expected him to be a big winner, yet he had not won a single game in a Cub uniform until last Wednesday against the Cardinals. Now, Jim, how big is that first win in building up a pitcher's confidence? Actually, Sanderson's been around and won before, so it really probably wasn't a very big issue with him, was it?
Well, I can say this. Our game is a game of streaks. I think all sports kind of runs in streaks. You get on a bad streak and you don't know when you're going to get out of it. You can, as a pitcher, develop some bad habits, and you have some sleepless nights.
Well, here he is in the first inning. I mean to interrupt, but you're just talking about being on a streak. Now, the first guy gets on in this Cardinal game. He's on second, and he never moves from second. Is this what you're talking about, getting in that groove? And
Lonnie Smith hit a hanging breaking ball, and then he shut him down. You can see by the tape here, he throws a lot of good low fastballs. He keeps the ball away on some left-hand hitters. He gets a slow breaking ball over. He turned a fastball over a couple of times, taking a little off. And there's a breaking ball on the outside corner to Ozzie.
Working in a very cold park, too.
He is a boy, excuse me, Tim, but he's a boy with tremendous potential. I think this guy could be a 15 to 20 game winner for a long time to come.
That's obviously what Dallas
He's got a
was
good
thinking,
fastball. He's got a good curveball. He's got intelligence. He's a hard worker. He's got great preparation for a game. He's got all of the qualities that it takes to be a big winner. And I think he can do that.
Well, I think a lot of people would certainly agree with you, and obviously that was important to Dallas Green to get those kinds of qualities in the trade. Pitching has been very encouraging. Lots of things have been encouraging, but of course those fans out there, Jim, have got lots of questions for you, and in just a moment we're going to have some real fun. Jim Frey will answer your questions phoned in on the 24-hour hotline when we come back. Back to the Jim Frey, Tony La Russa show, and if you're just joining us for the first time this week, there's a way you can talk back to our managers on this show. All you have to do is phone our 24-hour hotline with your questions for Tony La Russa or Jim Frey. Phone lines are always open, so you can call 750-7540 and register your questions with the managers. And right now, the man on the hot seat, Jim Frey, the manager of the Cubs. And let's go to the hot seat right now and roll the first question.
My name's John Dodaro. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'd like to know why Jody Davis, when there's a close game, a one-run game, doesn't do like Jack Dempsey would do with the Baltimore Orioles, and when his pitcher throws a base hit, to jump up from behind the plate, go out there and talk to him instead of just having the next batter step in and swing away.
Jack Dempsey, catcher for the ball.
Yeah,
he means,
that was a long time ago. I think Jack caught there in 1922. However, Rick Dempsey goes out and talks to the pitchers now. I think that, first of all, there is constant communication between a pitcher and a catcher. They talk between innings on the bench. They discuss before the game how they're going to try to talk to pitch to the different hitters on that club. It's true that sometimes a manager would like for a catcher to go out and talk to a pitcher just to slow the tempo down, to change the pace, maybe relax the pitcher, just take a little time. However, you can't be running out there every time somebody gets on base. So I think there's a little discretion that's necessary, but the point is well taken that sometimes a catcher can help a pitcher get through a rough spot.
It really is. It's an interesting question. This other question is interesting, too, Jim. We're going to talk about now your choice of center fielder. Let's go to that question right now.
Hi, I'm Randy Henderson from Burbank, Illinois. I'd like to know why they're playing Denier in center field instead of Cotto. Cotto, I think, is a better defensive center fielder. From what he's shown, I don't know how Denier can do any better out in the field. And from what I've seen, Henry Cotto can hit the ball, too. He's hitting pretty good. And Denier, well, you know what Denier can do. He only hits around 260.
Well, what about it?
Well, I think that there again, we know that Dernier has not been a great offensive player in the major leagues. However, he came to this ball club to try to shore up the center field position at a time when we weren't sure that Cotto was going to even make the ball club. That decision was made just before we came north. We had a roster problem, and at one point Cotto was on the club, and another point he wasn't on the club. Now, we got Dernier because we thought, as I said earlier in this show, we wanted to improve the defense in the outfield. Dernier is a quality defensive ball player and a quality base runner. There's no question he's one of the better base stealers and base runners in the National League. Cotto is right now a young fellow with good natural ability. We have to wait and see what he can do. The theory of putting a guy in there and just putting him in the fire and leaving him sink or swim is a theory that I don't prescribe to. I would rather take a young player and ease him into the situation and try to make it more comfortable for him. Let him watch some games, let him play some games, let him get his feet on the ground psychologically. And that's what we're doing. We have two capable center fielders. They both play the game in a similar fashion. And we, again, I guess it's my job to use both of them.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing, and it is a long season. And while we're talking about the center field situation, that question was so good, let's go to another one.
Hello, this is Tim Spoleto from Wheaton, Illinois. I was wondering, why don't you put Mel Hall in center field? Why do you have Henry Cotto out there? I realize Henry Cotto is a very good ball player, but Mel Hall did very good last year, too.
Okay, the question obviously, why did Mel Hall move from center to right?
Well, I think last year Mel Hall played center field. I would say he did a pretty good job defensively. And from everything that I heard from the Cubs over the winter, he did a decent job. However, I don't think that the people thought he was a bona fide defensive center fielder in terms of range and quickness. Now, Cotto and Dernier both can run better than Mel Hall. They both get a better jump on the ball. And we felt like if we got a better center fielder, we would improve the outfield defense, especially going to AstroTurf Ballpark. The record for the Cubs in 1983 was 13-45 on AstroTurf.
Is that right? Jeez.
And to account for that record, I think you'd have to say that the outfield defense and the lack of base running speed was a key factor, those two things. Now, those are the reasons that we tried to make trades over the winter to upgrade our defense and our base speed. 13-45 obviously won't get it.
Well, you know, that's something we're going to be dealing with, obviously, in later shows. You haven't played a game on AstroTurf yet, and that will be interesting.
I would like to say one thing in terms of shuffling players around here. This club has been a 71-win club for a while. Now, what happened in the past obviously wasn't too good. So I think there was need for change. And Dallas and I spent the whole winter trying to make some changes, hoping that the club could win more than it has recently.
I don't think many Cub fans would argue with your assessment there, Jim.
Right.
Now, let's have another question relating to another situation in the outfield.
This is Rick Fishbeck from Joliet, Illinois, and I was wondering about the possibility of platooning Gary Matthews and Bill Buckner, since they both hit from both sides, opposite sides of the plate.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Bill Buckner has played some left field. What's your answer to that one?
Well, I can tell you this. Bill Buckner probably could catch the ball in the outfield well enough. He has a questionable arm, and I think Bill will agree to that. He's had some elbow problems this year. I don't think that he could go out there on a regular basis and make difficult throws from left field. I played him in left field in the exhibition season a couple of times. I told him to throw the ball to Boa regardless of the situation. Of course, that's spring training. Now, during the season, I think, especially in a large ballpark, the other clubs could take advantage of his arm. If his arm was average or near average, that would be an ideal situation. We could flip-flop him in the outfield back and forth to first base, and I think that would be one good way to solve our situation here, trying to get everybody enough at-bats. I think it's strictly a physical thing with his elbow, and he has a lot of problems with it.
Jim, you've just led us into our last question, talking about getting everybody enough at-bats. It's obvious you've got a lot more talent this year on the Cubs. You've got all these questions about who should be playing where and how often.
My name is Robert Collins, and I live in the city of Chicago, and I would like to place my question to Mr. Manager Jim Frey, and I would like to know, is it possible to keep the total morale up of the ball club when you have players that are definitely unhappy on their particular role as far as not start?
And that's the perfect tease for when we come back, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about when the Jim Frey Show continues. The question was asked, Jim, how do you keep 25 guys happy on this roster? And I think during last Wednesday's doubleheader with St. Louis was the perfect example of how you plan to do that. You got the first game, second game lineups almost completely different. And one thing I noticed, you played Richie Hebner at third base. He didn't play a lot there when he was in Pittsburgh, but he did a good job when you put him in there.
Well, I've seen him play third base at Detroit. I used him in third base in spring training also. I made up two lineups the day before I left the ballpark, and my thought was we hadn't been on the field in 3 days, and I wanted to get everybody in the lineup, get everybody a couple at-bats.
Well, you're talking about getting guys enough at-bats. Keith Moreland, of course, has complained he doesn't like being platooned with Mel Hall. He even said that he wanted to be traded, but, you know, then you put him in the ball game, and he does a great job for you. He hits, he runs, he hustles. You couldn't ask for more.
Well, he's played very well for us. He of course, everybody knows that Moreland is a real good hitter, good offensive player. He can handle a bat. He hits behind the runner. He can hit and run. He does a lot of things with the bat. He can also hit for power.
And, of course, another guy who can hit for power is Bill Buckner. much publicized situation. He wants to play more. He wants to be traded, all this kind of stuff. But here you are in a critical situation, and you look what he does here. He practically he's about to throw the bat at the ball.
Well, he does.
And he gets the hit for you. It's amazing. When these guys get in, they're delivering.
Well, their concentration level is pretty high right now, I would say. He threw the bat at that ball, which, you know, Bill Buckner's just a great hitter, and he showed his bat control. I have never seen too many guys throw their bat at a curveball.
Well, Jim, you know, it's really an interesting situation. I can't remember the last time that Cub fans were talking about having too much talent, and it's really a nice position for you to be in.
Well, we have a strong bench. We've got a lot of people to use, and I plan to use them. I think that we can use everybody during the course of this season and have a better team.
Well, so far the early indications are you're absolutely right. Well, we're going to put you on the bench.
It's a sound we're going to hear more of because this 1984 Cubs team is a team of winners. They've come from the Boston Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Philadelphia Phillies. This team came from all parts of the country to come together to provide an exciting year for Cub fans. In the next hour, we're going to see how they've played and won since the All-Star break. We're going to see highlights. We're going to see the agony and the ecstasy that made up this ball club. In the next hour, we're going to show you how they won in the hot days of August.
The Chicago Cubs, the hot days of August.
Harry, you can't beat fun at the old ballpark. What's the word around Rush Street about this ball club?
It's the same word that you find everywhere else. Where do you hang out?
I hang out at some of the best places in town, and I'll tell you what, the people are excited.
Well, I tell you something. People are as excited here as they would be in any other city that has a chance to win a championship as the Chicago Cubs do. Enthusiasm of baseball fans reaches its peak when they realize their team has a chance to win it. And of course, here in Chicago, it's been 1945 since the Cubs won. Naturally, their fervor and their responsiveness is even greater than they normally would be. Of course, I thought the Cubs were going to be a contender from the very beginning. I wasn't particularly upset by the bad showing in spring training because I've seen spring training come and go, and more mistakes are made in evaluating talent because of performances in spring training than at any other time. But when they added Matthews and Dernier, you knew now they had a solid ball club because automatically they not only improved their offense, but they improved what they really needed to improve even more was their defense. The line drives in the gaps that now only go for singles or a caught were going for doubles and triples. So it automatically made the pitching staff better because now they have double play situations, whereas before runners would always be on second and third. But the master stroke, I thought, it's rare indeed when a general manager can pick up just a little bit of pitching help. But after the season started, Dallas Green did something I doubt if any other general manager could have done or has ever done before. When he rebuilt the pitching staff. Mind you, the season was already underway when he added two starters, Dennis Eckersley and Rick Sutcliffe, and also added an outstanding relief pitcher with a great reputation in George Frazier. Now, that's 1/3 of your pitching staff, and you added that after the season had started. I think this is why the Chicago Cubs are knocking on the door today.
Well, all of that is good, Harry, but there's one ingredient that we're leaving out, and that's something that you can't overlook because Jim Frey, with his Baltimore tradition, loves home runs. And when you look at Jody Davis and Leon Durham and Ryan Sandberg and Ron Say, you're talking about some guys that can knock the ball out of the park. But what balance they have.
They do have balance, but not a whole lot of good balance at the end of the batting order. They don't hit too much down there, and that's why it's fortunate that the overbalance comes at the top, which is even more important than the lower half.
We've talked a lot about what's the most exciting play in baseball, and there's a lot of people that say that the double or the triple is the most exciting play. But how about that steal at home? You know, the Cubs have done it twice this year with Sandberg and Durham.
Well, there are. There's Durham, who's you don't think of him as a runner, but he's one of the fastest men in the ball club. You mentioned the three men, only Dernier and Sandberg would probably beat him in a race. And here he is right in the middle of your batting order, either hitting third or fourth, and he gives you a lot of speed on the bases, too. Speed is as necessary an ingredient as the power and the home run and the pitching that we've been talking about. Speed makes your innings stay alive. Speed defensively enables a man to get to a ball that ordinarily might be an extra base hit.
Are you surprised with 3 different men at shortstop that Ryne Sandberg and the double play combination have been able to turn so many important double plays this year?
Yeah, I would have to say yes, but on the other hand, one thing about the shortstop is played most of the time. He may not range as far as other shortstops, but he rarely boots a ball that's hit at him. And double plays usually come from balls that are hit at you. And I think, therefore, when Larry Bowa is at shortstop, he gives you that stability of rarely booting the routine play. Maybe the play to his right and to his left, especially on AstroTurf, because he is a little older now, he may not be able to make as well, but that happens to all shortstops, and they compensate with intellect, with mentality, for what they lose as the years pile on through agility.
Well, Harry, character is a tough thing to measure on a ball club, but the Cubs have shown a lot of character this year, and I think you can look at that and see how many times they've won the game in their last at-bat. It's got to be a complete difference this year between Cub teams in the past and 1984.
I would like to even carry it further than that, be a little more profound about it. I think that true character is not just rallying in the last time at bat. Their true character has been shown to me. Their absolutely amazing resiliency is after hard luck losses. The kind of defeats that just tear your inside out. When you could have won 1-0, you lose 2-1. When you could have won 2-1, you lose 3-2. And boy, with a ball club that hasn't won for a long time, as soon as you lose 1 or 2 like that, right away they expect the worst to happen. Well, in the case of the Chicago Cubs, the worst never would happen. Somehow they bounce right back. They lost in the series in Montreal. 2 tough ball games in the first 2 games of a 4-game series. If there was ever a time for a ball club that was designed to fold, it was right there and then. Instead, they come right back and win the next 2 ball games, and thus go out of Montreal with a winning streak instead of a losing streak. Now, that's what I call character. I call character the team that refuses to buckle, refuses to fold, and the ability to take every day's play 1 game at a time.
Well, Harry, one thing you have seen is a lot of managers in your time in baseball. And we've got a man here who's piloting this ball club to the top of the standings in the National League. How do you evaluate Jim Frey's performance this year?
Well, I evaluate it primarily this way, naturally very positively. But I think he's the perfect man in the perfect spot for the perfect boss. I think that Jim Frey's greatest value is that the way he can interrelate with the man who appointed him, who's Dallas Green, the general manager. I'm sure they have differences of opinion, but I think that they're the 2 types of individuals that complement each other, and they both know where to give and where not to give, where to bend and where not to bend. And I think this has been the beautiful part of the management of Jim Frey.
Well, folks, we've touched about all of the bases with the Cubs this year, but there's one thing we haven't talked about, and that's something the Cubs have had in abundance: Lady Luck.
Here it is. There goes the runner. Hey, a line drive off the pitcher's game is over. Cubs win. What a lucky break.
Center field in Wrigley Field. This is the field that had the likes of Andy Pafko, Adolfo Phillips, and Rick Monday, but none played it better than Bob Dernier. He's delighted the bleacher bums with great catches, and the saying around Wrigley Field is, if it stays in the ballpark, Bob Dernier is going to run it down.
Out into right center, Dernier across, and he is there! Holy Toledo, what a play! Tony must feel like he's on vacation. He gets so many guys healthy again. A sinking liner center, and Dernier makes the play! Holy Toledo, that little guy is in the right spot again.
The fans are something to deal with. I dealt with them as an opposing player, and that was a thrill all in itself. And now that I'm on the home team, it's a pleasure to be out there with them. As far as learning the field, you have to do your work and get used to where the sun's going to be at certain times of the day, and of course the wind is an ever-changing factor, so you have to stay on top of that too.
One of the reasons for the futility of the 1983 ball club was its inability to win on AstroTurf. Last year, the Cubs were 13-35 on artificial surfaces. This year, they've become a 500 club, due largely to Bob Dernier's ability to go get him in the alleys.
There's a high fly ball. Now watch the race at the plate. Bobby Dernier's catch, and Rose will hold up. Perfect throw to the plate.
Here's the pitch. Swinging, fly ball, out into deep right center. It's well hit. Dernier back, and he will come out of there with it. What about that Bobby Dernier?
Last year, the Cubs lacked a consistent leadoff man. This year, Bob Dernier has filled the bill. Hitting around 300 most of the season, Dernier has gotten on base ahead of the Bombers for the Cubs.
Line drive, another base hit for Bobby Dernier. The third straight game in the series that he has opened up with a hit. There's a base hit in the center field. Bobby Dernier singles to center. And the daily double is back in force. There's a drive, and there's a fair ball into the corner. Extra bases. Bobby Dernier pulls up at second base with a double. Holy cow, the daily double is back at work.
He's got a real good on-base percentage this year, and he gets on base a lot by walks, base hits, and, you know, a guy with his speed hitting in front of me, pitchers seem to think about him a lot because he is a stolen base threat, and when they do that, then, you know, sometimes they forget about me as a hitter, and so I've been seeing some good pitches to hit, and I've been trying to take care of those advantages and use them to my benefit.
And those opposing pitchers should be concerned because he's got the best stolen base record on the Cubs.
Early in time. Boy, what a break he got.
Powers pitch. There goes a runner. There's the peg, and he is in there with a stolen base. Now he's going to advance to third. Milner's got a chance. Almost throws it away.
What does Dernier watch on a pitcher when he's attempting to steal?
Most of them are trying to trick you now. Most of them have some way of either going faster to home plate or else coming over to first base quicker. So since that's something that's changing all the time with each year, you have to try to stay on top of that. And there are some pitchers who you can just, you can't pick up any one particular thing. You have to look at their body personality, especially right-handed pitchers, and you know, maybe look at just maybe from the waist up, because in order for them to come to first, the hip has to move first.
There goes the runner. Strike called, and a stolen base for Bobby Dernier without a play.
Dernier and Sandberg have signs with one another when they want to hit and run.
Hit and run is something that Ryan and I like to do on our own. We'll give a sign to one another from first base to home plate, and it's just something that we've been able to do in the past with quite a bit of success. So, like I said, we're just now really getting to the point where we can have a good idea what each other's doing.
Well, Dernier is on, and Sandberg's up there with a count. 2 balls and a strike. There goes the runner. One base hit. Right center. Here's the runner racing to third. He's going to hold up there. Once again, Sandberg came through with a hit and run on.
There's a bunt up the third base side. It's going to get a ride home. How about that? Exciting Cubs baseball. Bobby Dernier with a beautiful bunt. Got Boa home for another big Cub run.
That's a long drive. Deep left field, way back. It may be. It did! Holy cow!
Stolen bases, hit and run, bunts. Bob Dernier has done it all. Offensively, he's one of the reasons why the Cubs lead the league in runs scored.
The third homer of the year for Dernier.
Second base is where Ryne Sandberg plays. He's the quickest second baseman in baseball. Going to his left or going to his right, Sandberg has no peers.
There's a ground ball hit for right field. Hey, what a play! He's out! There it is, swung on a line drive to Sandberg. Sandberg moving to his right, stab Strawberry's line drive. There's a little pop fly. Sandberg on the run, a beautiful play.
Sandberg has played with 3 different second basemen this year, and despite that, The Cub double play combination is among the best in the league. Getting the ball away at second base as quickly as he can, Sandberg has turned many a force out into a twin killing.
Double play ball, maybe. Bull has got it over. Sandberg one over the first. Oh, and double play. There's a double play ball to Verizon. Out at second. Out at first. Double play. Could be two. Flip and fire. Yes.
Offensively, Ryne Sandberg has had an MVP year. A look at the statistics shows you his name at the top of most offensive categories.
2 balls and no strikes. Rhino got it up to 327. High fly ball. Deep left center. Looks like it'll be playable. They drop it. They drop it. Rhino coming to third. They're going to wave him. They're going to wave him. Throw to the plate, and he's going to be out at the plate.
In left center field and deep. This is a tie ball game. 1-1 pitch.
Well, I think that game could have been one of the big turning points in our ball club in terms of exposure. I think the country that day found out about the Cubs as being a serious contender, and I think our ball club gained a lot of confidence coming back and beating Suter the way we did with those 2 home runs.
Be it home runs, run batted in, or base hits, Sandberg is having the kind of year that you look for when they hand out awards at the end of the season. The Cubs have been an aggressive running team this year. A lot of hit and runs, a lot of stolen bases. And Sandberg fits right into the pattern when it comes to stealing second base.
2-2. But goes right back over there to Rhino, and he's back. With a man on, Darling has really been spending some time. He's going. Inside a ball. Throw down will be safe. He got in the back door. There's a man trying to steal home. Save! Sandberg stole home.
If Sandberg is our MVP, you certainly don't need this.
Gosh should throw him out. He makes a wild throw.
Basically, what a hip pointer is, all the muscles from the upper torso attach right on the top of the pelvis. And in Ryan's case, he was hit by a knee right at the crest of the pelvis, and it caused a bruise in the area. And every time he twisted or turned or even raised his legs, he had pain. Normally, hip pointers last.
Bill Buckner was 33 years old. Bull Durham is 27 years old. The other is that I thought the home run potential out of Durham was far greater than Buckner. Buckner's a fine hitter, we know that, but I thought Bull Durham could be a 300 hitter with maybe 25, 30 home runs.
High fly ball, center, Murphy back, looks up, it is gone! The Bull drives one to the deepest part of the park. Fly ball, deep right, up, and gone! Holy Toledo, the Bull has dropped another bomb on Wrigley Field.
Offensively, Leon Durham has few peers in the National League. He can hit the long ball, knock in the key runs, and hit for average.
Up the middle, base hit. Here comes Denier. Sandberg will streak to third. RBI single for Bull. He's got 3 RBIs on the day. There's a bouncer, fair ball, down toward the right field corner. Matthews will streak around third. Zimmer will wave him home. And Durham picks up his coach, throw to second. He's got to dive back and make it. Whoop. Safe. Yes, sir. Durham streaked across. Bases loaded, second time in the last 2 innings. Here's a man trying to steal home. Save! He's still home. He's still home. Holy cow! It was a triple steal.
Defensively, Leon Durham was back at his natural position. The Bull has proven to be a solid, steady first baseman, able to pick throws out of the dirt, make the relay to second base, and do it all with the glove.
There's the line drive. Sensational catch! Ground ball. Owen better hurry. Fires. Out on a close play.
All in all, Leon Durham has been a constant spark for the Cubs. The beginning of 1984 found frustration for Keith Moreland. He had to look out at Mel Hall playing right field, a field that he manned capably last year while hitting .302. But things turned around when Mel Hall went to Cleveland and Keith Moreland got into the starting rotation. Moreland has moved around the field, providing adequate work at first base, third base, and sometimes behind the plate.
When I first came to the big leagues is the fact that I had to play a bunch of different positions, plus I've been a catcher. And I think once that you're a catcher, you have to figure out that you cannot take your offense out on the field or your defense back into your offensive hitting. Because if you do that, you're not doing your pitcher justice or your team justice, because there's so much responsibility in that. And I learned there that no matter what position you play, when you come in off the field, it's time to hit and be an offensive player. When you go back on the field, you're a defensive player and not to worry about what you're doing offensively.
There's a drive to the right field. On the run is Moreland, and he makes the catch. Nice play by Keith Moreland.
Bronce has gone in at third base, and Keith Moreland has gone to first base. Keith Moreland finds himself at yet another position.
Line drive. Nice play by Moreland, who's gotten to the point where no matter where you put him, he does well.
Lined into right for a hit. Moreland comes in to get it. He got a chance. The gun down to runner at third. He's going to be out. Beautiful throw by Moreland.
He's played well at third, first, right. He's been one of our most consistent hitters.
Keith has done it all, and he's probably the best two-out hitter on the ball club.
This season, I've come to home plate so many times with guys that hit in front of me on base that it's just seemed like that it's been that situation all season long, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. But I think that's when I strive to be my best, is when the guys are in scoring position and the game's on the line.
Came through again. 2 on, 2 out. The deuces are wide. 2-2 pitch. Fastball drilled into left field. Here's the first run of the ball game. Here's a throw to the plate. Not in time, and Moreland came through. He didn't mean to swing a little dribble. He's going to beat it out, I think. He does. Here comes the run all the way around to third. Wild throw. Here he comes across the plate. Great base running. There's a drive in the left field way back near the wall. It might be. It could be. A grand slam. Holy cow.
Keith Moreland was a football player at the University of Texas, and every now and then he calls upon his experience.
Now it's Moreland with a walk and a pop-up. They hit him. Now that'll really break it up. And the brawl is on because Pennant fever is erupting here. There's no doubt about Moreland going after him, because in that situation, he deliberately threw at him. There's no doubt about it.
This is home plate at Wrigley Field. It's 17 inches wide. If you're alongside of it, you're hitting. If you're behind it, you're catching. And either place, Jody Davis has done a phenomenal job for the Cubs this year. He knows that. His teammates certainly know it. But more importantly, the fans know it.
It's exciting. It's exciting, first of all, to have all these people out here every day. It's exciting for me. It picks me up a little bit, but I try to do the best I can every at bat, even when they're not chanting. And you know, just the winning attitude, I think, has just made this whole ball team a little different.
You've really done a 180-degree turnabout defensively from last year to this, and I know there's one man who's helped you, and that's Johnny Oates.
He just decided, you know, we needed to make it fun again. The fundamental things came back, I think, just because my confidence came back, and it was fun again.
Jody's thrown out over 40% of the base runners who have tried to steal against him this year, and he credits you.
Third, throw down, and it'll be out. He overslid the bag.
But
Pretty good time for a pitch out from Jody Davis. Let's see if he can catch Milner running.
There he goes. There's a pitch out. There's the pitch. They're going to get him. Hey, he's out.
Any things that you can look for to tip off when the man's going to run?
Well, I try to watch the manager in the dugout give the signs to the third base coach. I can't really pick up a lot, but you can tell if he's, if he doesn't give a sign this time, then you don't figure anything's going to be on. And just a good move. The pitcher can give you a good move to first base, and you can see the runner leaning sometimes. And I think just little things sometimes tip it off.
The chant of Jody, Jody, Jody comes when Davis is at bat. And Jody Davis this year certainly has shown that he can hit the ball with any catcher in baseball. Long home runs, piles of RBIs. Jody Davis is one of the best clutch hitters in the game. The average is down a little bit, but that's because he catches every day. Jody Davis has provided offense when the Cubs really needed it, and Jody Davis has come around defensively. This has been the year when Jody Davis has established himself as one of the best catchers in the National League.
Two runs should score because they were running with the play. Jody's headed for third to throw to the plate where they didn't have a play.
There's a high drive. Way back left center. Shea will never hold it. Going, going, gone. Holy Toledo, Jody just set up a rocket.
Third base is known as the hot corner, and there's nobody hotter at that position than Ron Say. If you're playing defensively, sometimes you have the pleasure of having the ball hit 120 miles an hour straight at you, and then your reflexes have to take over.
Swing smash, great play by Say, the long throw, still gets him. A one-bounce throw, and Durham came up with it. What a magnificent play. Mookie Wilson pops it up. Say's got a play. Look out. There's a little looping pop fly, and whoa, it's a foul ball. It's a good thing that Say.
Ron Say came from a tradition of winners with Los Angeles. Say has had some physical problems this year and is battling a couple of wrist injuries.
With Ron's right wrist, we try to stabilize his wrist so he doesn't have a lot of movement in it. That's why he's heavily bandaged. We put a pad underneath the bandage so he can stabilize a little bit better, so when he swings it is not hurting him that much. On his left wrist, he fell on his wrist in Cincinnati, and what we basically do there is just strap it to give it a little support so it's not so free moving.
I've just dismissed the fact that they exist now, and I'm just trying to go out there and not think about what they actually are feeling like.
But Ron Say has come through, and he couldn't pick a better time to get hot. Say has produced RBIs in bunches the last couple of weeks, and Ron Say has provided constant offense and defense at third base. Ron Say, one of the big reasons why the Cubs are winning in 1984. A team is only as good as its starting rotation, and the 1984 Cubs starting rotation was suspect in spring training. Now people around the league suspect that this ball club has the best starting pitching in baseball. No team can go without an anchor, and the #1 starter for the Cubs is Rick Sutcliffe.
Well, Sutcliffe, I would have to say, was a godsend for us. He came in when we needed pitching desperately and reeled off. I think he's won almost every game. He's just been perfect for us.
It's just a great opportunity for me to be here. When you stop and look at the standings, you can see what a great adjustment it was and an improvement it was for me, and a great opportunity. You get out here and you get in front of 40,000 people in Wrigley Field, and the people, it's like having a 10th man on the field. We've come a long ways, and there's no reason to think that we're not going to be there when it's all over with.
Eckersley came in a trade with Buckner to Boston. He's pitched very well. In fact, pitched far greater than his record showed.
What's it like pitching with a team that's on the verge of going all the way?
Well, I'll tell you, it makes it a lot more exciting to come to the ballpark, first of all. And it's kind of scary, but it's a nice scare. It'd be a little different us trying to catch somebody. But we're up now by 5, and so we'll see what happens.
Sanderson we got from Montreal during the winter. Aside from injuries, Scott Sanderson has pitched very well from us.
He was in the hospital for about a week to 10 days. After that, he was started on a swimming program. We kept him away from all types of running. We made him ride an exercise bicycle and basically lower back stretching.
Ruthven, of course, has had injuries, physical problems for a couple of months, but he's pitched better than his record. He always was stacked up against their ace early in the year. I don't think he had much luck going his way in '84.
Steve Trout has won more games this year than at any time during his career. The only left-hander in the rotation, Trout will give you the big game when you really need it.
Sandberg to Boa, and the Chicago Cubs have beaten the Cardinals 6-1.
Last year was almost a trying period for him where we were working on different things, trying to get him where he felt comfortable. And this year when he came to spring training, he made a couple of trips to Florida, talked about some things, worked on mechanics, looked at some films, and he went to spring training this year, and he didn't really have to worry about mechanics as much as just going out there now and let everything get in the flow and throw, and he had an outstanding spring and carried on through the season.
No matter how good your starting rotation is, you can't win without a quality short reliever, the man who comes in a tough situation and ends the ball game. In the case of the Cubs, it's none other than Lee Smith.
Lee Smith, of course, came off of a knee injury, and in the early going, especially when it was cold in April and May, had a lot of knee problems. Was abused by some because of mediocre performances early on, but now, of course, has come on to be one of the leading game savers in the National League and in all of baseball.
Now he had the knee operation this year, and you know, we had to do some things with him mechanically, lifting up his leg properly and getting that front leg where he'd land, where he wouldn't put a lot of pressure on the knees. And he's been, you know, he's done a good job this year, and we feel he's as good as anybody in the National League.
Our bullpen, of course, carried us at a time during the middle part of the year when Ruthven and Sanderson were down, and we didn't know what our starting rotation was going to be. Stoddard, Frazier, Bordy came out of the bullpen a couple of times and won some big games for us.
The Cubs win the doubleheader.
Brustar was used on a regular basis in the middle innings. We even used Ruschel at times in relief in the bullpen. I think that the bullpen has really been overlooked because the other factors, that is starting pitching and hitting, were the things that most of the media dwelled on. But I felt like our bullpen did a good job to keep us in the race in the middle of the year.
This is a good place to watch a game. There's only one problem. If you're in here, you can't possibly be out there. That's where everyone wants to be, but unfortunately only 9 men can play at one time. There are 25 men on a baseball team, and no team can win without a good bench. Jim Frey's Chicago Cubs are no exception. Take Henry Cotto, for instance. Whether as a late-inning replacement or somebody who comes into the game as a starter because of injuries, Cotto has really come through. Make no mistake about it, if the ball stays in the ballpark, Henry Cotto is going to catch it. Henry Cotto has been a pleasant surprise for Jim Frey in a pinch hitting role. They didn't think much about his bat in spring training, but he's come through and he's hit the ball well every time Frey's called upon him. Cotto's come up with some big hits this year for the Cubs.